Nebraska wins another one-score game, this time against Northwestern, and they're bowl eligible.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this bonus episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase.
All right, welcome in. Hello. It is Sunday, day after Nebraska has defeated Northwestern 28-21 at Memorial Stadium to improve to 6-2 on the season. Bowl eligible before Halloween. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me. We are going to react to the Huskers' Big Ten victory. This is Big Ten victory number 3 for Nebraska. They stopped a 4-game winning streak for the Cats. Lots to discuss in this game. We'll want to start with Nebraska starting hot and finishing in a clutch way in this game, because I think those two factors define what Saturday was all about for Nebraska. So I will begin this, Connor, and try not to talk the entire time, with how are you, by the way?
I'm good. It's maybe the waters are a little bit calmer going into this week. We'll see.
I think so. Yeah, and here's a little story to maybe set the mood for how the waters were last week. Last week was just such a strange week, and we're not going to talk about last week, but I got a text on Saturday morning. So I was sent to Ames, Iowa by The Athletic on Saturday. They said, go cover BYU, Iowa State, and perhaps you'll get a story about a playoff contender, which I did because BYU won the game. So that's enough about that. But I was on my way to Ames, driving across I-80, and about an hour before Nebraska kicked off, I was listening to partly College Game Day and part of the Nebraska pregame show. And I got a text from somebody. It's not like a big secret or anything, but I'm not going to say who it was. It's a broadcaster who is in like national, semi-national Big Ten media. And he said, is Matt Rule still answering questions late in the week about Minnesota? And I replied, yes. He was still answering questions on Thursday in his media session about Minnesota, but they were more a response to questions, to answers that the Huskers gave on Tuesday, which were a response to answers that he gave on Monday. So it was a whole big, cycle of things. And the response that I got back in this text exchange was, wow, if I was David Braun, the Northwestern coach, I would go and tell my team, you don't have their attention. They are focused still on this mess 7 days after what happened at Minnesota. So I think there was a real opportunity for Northwestern to have an advantage against Nebraska early in this game. And what did Nebraska do? It came out, it forced a punt, and it had a great drive to start the game. Its most efficient drive of the game. And right away, it's 7-0 Nebraska. So even though it was 7-6 at halftime of this game, I think the message that Nebraska sent in the opening minutes was huge to dispel the whole idea that the Huskers were not ready to play.
Well, and I think it goes to show you that the message was it is in spite of Northwestern. The message was like, hey, this is about us. We could have done a lot better in that Friday game, and it wasn't meant as a slight.
Talking about it.
It wasn't meant as a slight to Northwestern. It was just like, hey, if we play our game, we're going to be in a lot better shape. And they were, and they did. It was all on script for Nebraska in the first, in the first couple drives there of the game. Yeah. Like if you could have scripted that up, all right, Nebraska, gets a stop after 1 first down on the first possession. They get them off the field in 6 plays. They go straight down the field. They score in 4 minutes. They're possessing the ball. They allow a field goal on Northwestern's next drive. All right, you got the upper hand already. And then you go down and miss a field goal. And then that's when it sort of, gets tilted back.
It's when it turned into a Nebraska Northwestern game.
That's when it turned into a Nebraska Northwestern game. Exactly. So 6-7, as they made a lot of mention of at halftime. And
who said that?
There was a lot of conversation about 6-7 between
the 6-7 thing.
Connor Onion and Mark Helfrich on the broadcast.
Well, I listened to the first half. What?
I like Connor. He does a really good job.
Connor's good.
Yeah.
Helfrich doesn't add a lot for me. I don't know. I listened to the second half. I watched the second half from the press box on my computer at Jack Trice Stadium. So I got the TV broadcast in the second half. I got the Kyle Crooks, Damon Benning experience on the Huskers radio network. They did a really nice job. That's the first extended period of time I've had listening to them this year, because every other game, if you try to listen to it, you got to sync it up watching live. It's tough. And then I went back and watched the TV version of the first half later on, but then I did not hear this dumb number stuff at halftime. So yeah, 7-6, same score as last week for Nebraska. It's ahead, whatever. And it's, it's not a pretty looking first half at all, but I felt like because they came out and set a tone at the beginning, you did away with the whole narrative or idea that Nebraska wasn't going to be ready to play.
They were in the
I don't
game.
really think that was truly Nebraska's mindset last week. I think we focused more on press conferences, which Matt Rule spends an hour or less, maybe 45 minutes in his week in press conferences, and the players and assistant coaches who talk spend about 5 to 10 minutes. So it is a small sample size of what they're doing over an entire 7 or 8 day period, in this case, leading up to a game. And we spend way too much time psychoanalyzing, because that's what we do. That's the window that's the window that we see them through.
At the same time, Mitch, like, I think if you asked anybody in those walls last week, it was a little tense,
For sure.
And deservedly so. It shook Nebraska a little bit, but yeah, you're right. They score on that first drive, and it's like, okay, we're in the game now. We're playing. It's not going to be one of these, oh my gosh, are we going to get this, rocket ship off the ground today? So that was good. And then it turned into a Nebraska Northwestern game. As you said, they traded horrible picks in the second half of the game. Dylan's was bad. Stone's one was tipped, and then the other one was horrible to Javen Wright. And ultimately, it's a 21-21 game with 9 minutes to go, and Nebraska goes down, and they have their best drive of the season, probably converting 4 third downs. Dane Key did a lot of heavy lifting on that drive, breaking a couple tackles, 13 plays, 64 yards. They punch it in with an Emmett Johnson run. And that's kind of the big picture story, I think, of this one.
Dylan Raiola was 4 for 4 on third down on that drive to 4 different targets. He did not have a prolific day passing the football. 16 to 22, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 141 yards. Did most of his damage on that last drive. That's when Nebraska got the best of Dylan Raiola. And what a time. What a time to get it. Like, people are going to look at those numbers and talk about how pedestrian they are. I don't know. I'm projecting. I'm still scarred by our mailbag last Friday where everything was just so doom and gloom. And I get it. It was the end of a really hard week for Nebraska, maybe a season defining week if Nebraska ends up as an 8 or 9 win team after the bowl game this year. And that's been the case for Matt Rule's teams in the past couple of years, where they show they show who they are after the worst performance of the season. So we might be in that spot again, and we're going to look back at this and go, it was 21-21 in the fourth quarter against Northwestern. And if Nebraska loses that game going into USC week, man, you're in a dark, dark, dark place. And Dylan Raiola comes up, and he's put in tough positions on that last drive, and he was on the money, and the receivers and running back who made the catches on that drive did work to move the chains, and they didn't just kick a field goal. They got into the end zone. That's one thing that Nebraska did when it had opportunities on Saturday, is it got into the end zone 3 times, plus the Kenneth Williams 95-yard kickoff return to start the second half, which was huge for momentum and another feather in the cap of Mike Eckler as the special teams extraordinaire, who has in some ways also saved this season for Nebraska.
Did you see the video? And I want to give credit. I think it was Matt Sotilli from KTV here in Omaha.
I think I know what you're talking about.
He had the way upstairs shot just with the ISO cam on Eckler, who was trying to run into everyone that he could find on the sideline. And then he got to Matt Rule, and Matt Rule's like, get off me.
Get out of my face, man.
Really good. Great stuff.
I did see that. I actually probably saw more camera views and replays and footage of the game than I generally do. We should take a break because I want to talk about a key point in the game.
Yeah. And
it came when it was 21-6 Nebraska, and the Huskers were on the verge of putting this thing away. And I got a lot of buzz and attention and conversation among Nebraska fans yesterday, and it involves the officials.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to wait until after the break to get to that and what kind of an impact it had on Saturday. That is after this break. A moment right now to talk to you about Game Time, because college football is getting into the nitty-gritty part of the season. November is almost here. What an exciting time. What an exciting season. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, they are all ramping up. But let's be real. If you want to go to the games and actually get tickets, sometimes it can feel like more of a battle than those 60 minutes themselves, with the endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I encourage you to use Game Time. It's the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Maybe you're looking for tickets for this Saturday night, the blackout game at Memorial Stadium. A lot on the line for Nebraska, a lot on the line for USC. You heard Matt Rule talk about this already, right in the aftermath Saturday night. Game Time is the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best price with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets, college football tickets, with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
All right, so I suppose this is the segment where we talk about officiating. Let's go ahead and just tie that into this one. The play that Mitch was mentioning in the third quarter, Nebraska taking control with a 21-7 lead. A nice catch and a toe tap by Isaiah Hunter in the corner of the end zone for Nebraska to go up in that game. Northwestern gets the ball back, and they hit a big pass play. Northwestern hits a big pass play, a 30-yard pass play on second down, and then a what was the word? What was the phrase that was used, Mitch?
Abrupt. Is this when the abrupt movement happened?
I believe that was the abrupt movement.
What the heck is that?
Yeah, so
it's football.
Apparently,
you can move abruptly.
Apparently,
it's saying he enticed the offensive player to false start.
Right. Apparently, it's an emphasis this year. It's Riley Van Poppel, where Nebraska does a lot of this up front on defense. They shift and they move, and it happens suddenly, abruptly.
It's allowed,
one might say. And they said the officials said that caused Northwestern's offensive line to jump off sides.
So incredibly arbitrary. Like anything you do on defense, like you can fake a blitz, you can disguise your defense and move around. Like that's within the rules of the game. So I don't understand, unless he came into the neutral zone, which they did not say that he did, and it didn't appear that Riley Van Poppel did when watching the replay. They just abrupt movement. All right, just make up penalties, make up rules while you go along.
And then
whatever.
I believe it was also on this drive was the play where the Northwestern wide receiver caught the ball, kind of bobbled it. Somebody had a hand in there and didn't ultimately
Donovan Jones
didn't ultimately gain possession until he was behind the sticks on the first down marker. But that was called a first down for I can't figure that out of all the calls. That's the one that I cannot understand at all.
Yeah, they just completely botched it. I saw several replays, and there was one view, I'm not sure which view it was, but it was not straight down the line, where all right, I was watching on the TV copy, and I'm like, maybe. And then I immediately saw another view, which surely the officials had to have seen too. And it was so clear because where the receiver possessed the ball after bobbling it, he was actually on the turf. So you weren't trying to like view something from an angle and see where the yard marker was lined up with it. He was right there laying on the turf when he got possession of the ball, and there was a yard marker underneath him, and he was a full 1.5 to 2 yards short of the sticks. They gave him forward progress, didn't take into account the fact that he bobbled it. It was an awful, terrible, horrendous, brutal call. And it gave Northwestern a first down. Northwestern scores, kicks the extra point, gets the ball back, scores again, goes for 2, and it's 21-21. If they give the ball to Nebraska in that spot, which should have happened, then it's 21-6. Nebraska has the lead. And the game's not over. Like, you're still a 2-score game. But if Nebraska scores a touchdown, then it is probably over. So
I also think,
stuff happens.
To not do the officiating thing so much, although I totally understand it from this game because it was disjointed all day long and it feels like it's a conversation more often than it is not a conversation. But, as we were talking about before, Nebraska had, chances to really put their stamp on this game early and didn't take advantage of it. But 21-6 lead in the second half against that team, you feel pretty good about it. And they kind of skated away with it a couple different times. So,
and don't give up the 15 points after the bad call, and we're not even talking about it.
It was the game that we got the reaction and the response from Nebraska that I thought we would get with, just them playing well, or well enough in the game. And then, when you're in that type of game, it just comes down to a few plays here and there. And Nebraska had some things go against them as Northwestern was mounting that comeback. And ultimately they made a bunch of plays on third down on the final drive of the game, which is, like I said, ultimately the story of the game for me. But it was once again, like, I think we're back to, wow, they can, when their backs are up against the wall and when it's tied in the fourth quarter, you do feel like you have more weapons than these like Big Ten West styles teams to be able to get out of these holes.
Okay, and so since we mentioned the officials and the bad call or two that went against Nebraska, and there was some other stuff there weren't a ton of flags in this game, but there were some personal fouls, and I think they did the right thing to call offsetting penalties early in the game when both teams were going at it, and that doesn't usually happen. So good job, officials, on that one.
Sure, but he blocked them all the way to the red fence. Like, I mean,
and this is McCullough, and he retaliated. Is that what? Are we talking about the same thing? Yeah. Yeah. Well, don't retaliate. I mean, you could have just called it on Northwestern. I thought they were just going to call it on Nebraska at the beginning of the situation when I watched that one back. This was like late Saturday night when I watched that back, so I already knew the outcome of it. So maybe my perspective was skewed by that. But let's talk too about the last play for Northwestern in this game when Preston Stone on 4th and 6 from the 35. Northwestern is driving down 7 points in the final minutes, and he throws for Griffin Wildey toward the goal line. Wildey is clearly held by Andrew Marshall near the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
And no flag comes out. There was some contact at the end of the play too, which I thought didn't warrant a flag, but certainly at the beginning of the play it did, and that's usually called in that situation. So there Nebraska benefits from what would have been an automatic first down and a 10-yard penalty for defensive holding. Northwestern would have had it at the 25.
That dude Wildy, I mean, he's tough. They're two receivers, him and 80. They made some incredible catches, all day long and really great plays. I mean, for Wildy, I mean, that play, I think it was in the first quarter on a go ball down the sideline. I mean, just winning a one-on-one there, like in a contested ball situation. I mean, he was really good. So I think Marshall had his hands full all day with him and got him on that route. But, Nebraska came up with the call at the end of the day and got off the field.
He's the kid from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, who
played at South Dakota State.
Probably could have been at Nebraska if things had unfolded differently, but he wasn't, and he didn't get the call, and things went both ways. So Nebraska gets the win. Nebraska 6-2, and played the style of game to get there. that it should have played. We keep going back to Minnesota. We're going to be talking about Minnesota on Thanksgiving, but played the style of game that it should have played a week before on Friday night. So Emmett Johnson, 27 carries for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns. What a performance from...
Oh, he was great.
Is he going for first team all Big Ten? Like right now, if you made an all Big Ten team, he's probably first team all Big Ten, right?
I don't know. I'd have to think of, or look at that more, but man, he is obviously vitally important to what Nebraska is doing. He was excellent. I don't know that, 27
contact, making defenders miss. Emmett Johnson leads the Big Ten. He's second now. Justice Haynes has passed him up with 857 yards and 10 touchdowns. Johnson, 837 yards and 9 touchdowns. They're the only two over 100 yards per game rushing this season.
Emmett Johnson is 5th in the nation in rushing yards.
He is first team all Big Ten right now with Justice Haynes. 2 backs on the first team all Big Ten team. I'm sorry, that's just, are you going to put Wayman Jordan from USC, or you look Katron Allen, who would have been certainly the favorite at the beginning of the year? He's averaging 87 yards a game for a team that's lost 4 in a row. No, I mean, Jonah Coleman is very good from Washington. He leads the league with 13 touchdowns rushing, but I think it's Justice Haynes and Emmett Johnson right now for first team all Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, he was incredible. And like I said, the 27 for 124, I mean, it almost seems like a disservice just because of the little things that he was able to gain on, whether it was, it should have been a loss of 1 and he ended up falling forward for 2 or something like that, or just really the short area stuff has been fantastic from him this year. He still lacks what he lacks, which is the top gear, like the explosive stuff, but man, is he really good for what Nebraska is trying to do in the run game right now. He has been just excellent this year. And he's held up, so he's got a lot of carries underneath this belt. He's got 146 carries this year, which is quite a lot, but it's he's holding up so far.
And his breakaway speed is better than what it was when he was a freshman and a sophomore. He's one of the 10 or 15 fastest players if you just put them on the line and have them run and clock them on the Nebraska team. And I don't know that a lot of people would believe me with that, but that's what the numbers say. And that's what, at least as far as the speed that he's actually run in a game. Now, there may be some younger players on the bench who haven't had a chance to go out there and do that in a game. But as far as what they're putting on film, he's one of the fastest players on the Nebraska team. So he's a complete back this year, and everyone I think should recognize that he's playing it at an all Big Ten level. So they need him. They're going to need him on Saturday night when it gets dark, like the sky gets dark at Memorial Stadium and USC comes in.
And the stadium gets dark because it's a blackout. Nebraska now has the opportunity to put a lot of their eggs in that basket, and they're asking people to, it's going to be a special environment on Saturday night, and it wouldn't be possible without a win on Saturday against Northwestern. So that they did what they had to do in that game. When we come back, Mitch, let's talk about Dylan's day, because that's always a topic, and maybe we'll also give kudos to Mike Eckler and Kenneth Williams and all that as well. We're back after this. But first, a word from the FanDuel Sportsbook. Yeah, the NFL season is most certainly here. We're hitting about the midway point, getting close to it anyway. FanDuel is making sure you're ready with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if that bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I would even add, how about in college football, Nebraska as a early 6.5-point underdog against Northwestern against USC this upcoming weekend. So maybe you want to take a look there. Maybe you like the vibe, what's going on right now. But anywhere across the board, anytime touchdown scores, or if you're listening to this on Sunday during NFL play, live bets are an option for you as well. Download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel.com, and place that first $5 bet today.
Wrapping up a Sunday reaction episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. We are discussing Nebraska's 6th victory of the season, 28-21, Saturday at Memorial Stadium. All right, we're going to talk about Dylan Raiola. As I said before, 16-22, 141 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. His day will be defined by the final 60-yard drive. So it had been many years. We went back and talked about this and put this conversation to rest after Dylan led the game-winning 80-plus yard drive against Maryland just 2 weeks ago. And here he comes again, fourth quarter, tie football game at 21-21 after the 2 quarterbacks had traded interceptions. Javen Wright gets the second one, gets Nebraska back in good position with a pick of Preston Stone to set the Huskers up at the 40-yard line with, I believe, right under 9 minutes to play in the football game. Let's see. Drive starts
9-11.
at 9-11. Nebraska at the 40. Dylan immediately gets into a 3rd and 7. Dylan hits Emmett Johnson for 7 yards. He stretches to his body out to move the sticks. 3rd and 7 again from the Nebraska 49. Dylan hits Isaiah Hunter for 19 yards, moves the sticks. 3rd and 7 again. Dylan throws short to Dane Key. He breaks the tackle, gets 13 yards to the Nebraska 16. And then 3rd and 5 down in the red zone. Dylan hits Ja'Cory Barney at the 4 for a 7-yard gain. And then Emmett takes it in on the next play for the touchdown with 2 minutes and 44 seconds to go on the clock. So what a drive, like just textbook masterful. Like to me, he threw it. Yes, Dylan threw an interception. It was a bad decision on an RPO. And
probably didn't see the linebacker ducking underneath there, but yeah, no excuse.
But right. But that's, that's all forgiven because of what he did in Nebraska. Just hasn't had these kind of drives. Like, that if you've watched the Huskers, and they did again in the fourth quarter here in a Big Ten game on Saturday.
Yeah, this is where Nebraska having the options that they do at wide receiver. I mean, this is where it really the check cashes, I suppose. So Key, I thought Key's play was key, no pun intended. He was they threw a lot like short of the sticks, and they had a lot of decisions to kind of make throughout the game on 4th down. And Dylan's always yelling at the sideline to say, hey, let's go. But Nebraska in games like this, they got to punt, they got to play a little bit of defense. I was not necessarily a fan, just as this is aside from Dylan, not necessarily a fan of them going for it on 4th down on that 3rd drive in the second quarter after they had missed the field goal, of course. So you have to throw that in there.
This is when Dylan fumbled.
Yeah, I think, yes. I think you take the points.
Take the points.
Even though
there's only 30 seconds. There's only 30 seconds left in the half.
Yeah,
you're probably kicking a field goal anyway, even if he gets it.
Yeah, I don't think you're guaranteed to get 3 there, obviously, because you had missed a field goal prior. But I think you got to put your kicker out there and take some points in a game like this. But
I know Matt Rule said that was kind of inconsequential. Like that turnover wasn't a big deal because it was at the end of the half and Northwestern didn't have a chance to capitalize on it. Nebraska Northwestern, you want to be up 4 points at the half. It's points are at a premium, and everything else being equal, if Nebraska kicks the field goal there and then scores at the end to go up 31-21 as opposed to 28-21, you're feeling a lot better. So I know it's a game and things change and it might have all been different, but yeah, if you got an opportunity to get a field goal at the end of the first half, win the middle 8, and that would have, and they did because of the kickoff return. But I don't like going for it on 4th there. There's still a
like, we have to kind of figure out what we are, and it changes from week to week dependent on the opponent. So like, 16-22 for 141 and a touchdown and a pick. It doesn't necessarily jump off the page to you, but I thought he did what he had. He was a cog in the wheel in the offense, especially during that game, and then he was great on the final drive. So next week against USC, it'll be a little bit different. He'll throw it more, and he'll have more yards passing in a game like that, where the points are probably going to be coming at a little bit higher of a level, I would think.
Next week, and looking at the early forecast, they're saying like mid 50s, so it's not going to feel like November in the Big Ten. Saturday in Lincoln kind of felt like November in the Big Ten, just kind of gloomy and a little cooler than what that is. I think Nebraska would maybe prefer to have that again next week when USC and its high flying offense come into Lincoln. But yeah, the game plan here, undoubtedly, and I think this was influenced by the way things went a week earlier in Minneapolis, but the game plan was to just lean on the run game. So Nebraska's
possess the ball.
Yeah, Nebraska's run pass split in this game was, I am getting to it. So of course the 22 passes, and then the Huskers ran the ball 39 times. Yeah. And that includes the sack. So 38 times. Like that's a transformation from where this team was at. That's a lot different feeling from when Dana Holgerson told us a couple of weeks ago that you have to go with what is working, and he's not so much worried about run pass splits and balance and optics and things like that. So they're going through it. They're going through an ebb and flow of this season, and you have to be ready to change as you get deeper into it. And I think that last game was kind of a wake-up call in that area. So here we go in November, and it's a 4-game stretch where you can look at this and you could say, yeah, Nebraska could win every one of these games. Penn State's reeling. Yeah. The Iowa game, Iowa's playing great, but the Iowa game's in Lincoln, and we know how those games go. And you got USC, UCLA was just blown out. They kind of came back to earth after the coaching transition there at Indiana, losing by 50 on Saturday. So, or Nebraska could look at this and go, it's gonna be tough to get a W at all in the month of November.
He takes one. Dylan does. He takes one sack. He throws the ball away, far away to a loud Bronx cheer inside Memorial Stadium, which was probably deserved. And then he makes the plays on the final drive. He throws a bad pick. It was sort of the Dylan experience, but at least this week we don't have to talk about, oh my goodness, the offensive line. It's a disaster. Nebraska kept a team that doesn't cause much havoc out of the havoc areas, which is a plus in their category. It's something that they haven't done obviously very well, this season at all. So, it was a big deal. You had to possess the ball in order to win this football game more than they did. And Nebraska won the time of possession by like 4 seconds, but that they got touchdowns when they had to. They got the big play on special teams. And shout out to Mike Eckler, who, clearly is a gigantic difference maker for this team. Maybe they have one more or two more losses without making some great plays on special teams.
Double his salary. So not just Kenneth Williams with the 95-yard touchdown return, but also Archie Wilson had a big game. 2 punts, averaged 55.5 yards per punt. He had one left-footed Aussie style rollout, and then he had one, I believe, just straight punt, a regular style punt. And both of them were money. Northwestern did not get the opportunity to return punts, so Nebraska win.
He had one touchback that I thought was going to check up at like the 5-yard line.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
But it went into the end zone.
Yeah, he's got to be smarting about that. Achi, he needed to banana ball that or something. That's the one where he punted straight style. So I think he's maybe a little more comfortable putting the spin on the ball when he rolls out. But hey, special teams gets it done again. Unquestionably, Nebraska is in a much less likely position to win that game without the special teams contributions.
Now you set yourself up for a big week. Nebraska and USC a chance to, you got the bowl eligibility thing behind you, and now you get a chance to get back to the spot that you were in before the Minnesota debacle. If you can come up with a win against a team that, according to the odds makers, you're not supposed to beat on Saturday night. So Nebraska will need, everything and put a lot into this game, obviously. And we'll see where it looks after that. Maybe they can get back ranked again if they win on Saturday.
Ooh, they could. Is this going to be Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge on the call Saturday night?
Yes.
That's a good crew. I like that. I like that. Noah Eagle's really good. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for Saturday night in Lincoln and just what it brings. And it would have been such a bummer if Nebraska had come in off with 2 consecutive losses, but they get that 6th win. They're not going to go through it this year like the Huskers did the past 2 years, where you sit at 5 wins and wait and things just snowball on you. So here we go. This is going to be a fun month in the month of November, and it's going to be a fun week for sure in Lincoln as we get ready for Lincoln Riley and Jaden Maiava and Mekhi Lemon and the Trojans to come in with their high-flying offense. They have gone on the road to the Midwest twice this year and come back losers both times on the trip to Illinois and to Notre Dame, and they're giving up big chunks of yardage on the ground. Notre Dame, USC is, at least when it went to South Bend. So I don't know that Nebraska has that kind of rushing attack. But hey, quickly before we go, this reminds me, Rocco Spindler. We should mention him playing with the finger that was severed in half in the game against Minnesota. He's back. And then Teddy Prohaska.
Yeah.
Nebraska gave him the game ball on Saturday after the victory. He went out in the first half playing right tackle with what Matt Rule described as a significant or serious injury. And, you know, he made it 8 games. This is like injury number 5 for Teddy Prohaska in his career at Nebraska. Like, they ought to name some part of the training room or the stadium or like a trophy or something after Teddy for all that he's gone through. I can't imagine he's going to come back from this one if it's another ligament, but what a huge part of their program and an inspiration he has been. And so then Turner Corcoran played right tackle with Gatula out. So Nebraska doing it with a makeshift offensive line.
And there was some Tyler Kanak in there too. So found a way on Saturday. Okay. That's going to do it for us for this reaction show. Stay tuned all week. Plenty to come. It'll be, I think it's a big game week around here, which is exciting. For Mitch Sherman, I'm Connor Happer. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, you could check out Locked On Big Ten. Of course, find it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.